Okay, this is part 3 of the outcome training, and this part is titled Make It Blue. So the point of this training is to take your outcome and to niche it down one step further. We've talked a lot about how competitive the education market is. And honestly, I just want to give you the biggest competitive advantage going into all of this. There's actually no point in competing directly with everyone else when you could simply choose a different angle. Now, this step isn't actually required, so I don't want you to feel intimidated or feel like you're some kind of failure if you cannot pull this off, especially if you can't pull it off immediately. I had success as a coach for years in the 6-figure range without my outcome being what I'm going to describe as blue. Even when I found the outcome for this product, which is helping coaches choose their niche, obviously, I honestly sort of stumbled onto it. And once I did, only then did I realize how powerful it is to do something that's not already heavily saturated in the market. So I'm going to do my best to teach you why this is important. And I'm going to provide plenty of examples to help drive the point home. Some of you might watch this and your idea will just hit you, or you've already kind of been chewing on it and this is just confirmation. So you might figure it out today. Some of you, it might happen in 6 months. And for some of you, it probably will never happen. But I do recommend that you do not gloss over this training. It's very common for you to watch this and feel resistance and to feel like it's big and feel like it's difficult. I think that's what most people feel when they discover this concept. But if you get this one piece right, it could literally be worth thousands of times the price of this program. This part of forging your outcome, I think, may prove to be both the most difficult and the most valuable thing you can do if you can pull it off. So the actual process, just like a lot of the stuff we've talked about, of taking your outcome and making it blue, it really can be nothing more than a simple, quick decision. Or more or less, it's a simple shift in your positioning and how you talk about your product. But what's more important, I think, is that you understand what is meant by a blue outcome and why it's so valuable to create one in the first place. So I stole the word blue from this book called Blue Ocean Strategy. And in the book, the whole idea is that instead of competing in a red ocean, which it's red because there's blood that has been shed by all of the competition fighting against each other, instead, you should create your own blue ocean and swim there instead. And by blue ocean, it basically means like your own category where you help people with a certain thing and in your own unique way. And it sounds nice, right? Like instead of fighting in the bloody waters where everyone's out there kind of competing for clients. I'm a life coach. I help people grow their business. It's like those waters are so red. They're so bloody. And it sounds nice to sort of create your own nice blue ocean and swim in there. But what does this actually mean? So I want to go into a few slides here, and I've taken these from Russell Brunson's book, Expert Secrets. I will link this book down in the description below. I don't necessarily know that you need to grab that book today, but I definitely think you should put it on your reading list. It's one of the best books I've read in terms of positioning. And I have learned more from Russell than just about anyone. I've spent a lot of money on his programs. I'm going to one of his events this year. Love the guy. So shout out to you, Russell. He's a great dude. I've met him in person. He's very genuine. And he's one of the smartest marketers alive today. And in this book, Expert Secrets, he has all these really great drawings about this blue ocean thing that we're talking about, and I figured why not just take pictures of his drawings, put them in here rather than redraw them all myself. So these are the 3 big markets that most programs live within. You're either helping people get an outcome that's related to their health, that's related to their wealth, or related to their relationships. Now, I think that there's really a fourth market, and that would be personal growth or personal development, because there's some things that are not quite one or the other. And so you can imagine a fourth bubble here of like personal development if your outcome doesn't really directly help people with health, wealth, or relationships, but helps them self-actualize. As long as that goal is not driven ultimately by they want relationships, they want health, they want wealth, you can choose that fourth category of personal development. But I want you to think about your outcome and think about which of those four big markets does that lie within. And so within the big three or big four, there's a bunch of sub-markets. And Russell has nicely illustrated this in this picture here. As you can see, the sub-markets would be diet, nutrition, strength training, all this weight loss, right? And you've seen all this stuff. In the wealth market, the sub-markets are finance, investing, real estate. There's probably stocks. There's a ton of different markets. These are not the only ones. He's just listed the main ones here for you right now. So within your big market, health, wealth, relationships, or personal development, think about the sub-market that you might likely be within. If you're thinking you're helping people with relationships, is it marriage advice? Is it dating advice? Is it parenting? Like, what's your sub-market that's an offshoot of the big market? And so we start with the big three or four, and then we chose, or you have some idea of what your sub-market might be. When you want to choose a blue ocean, you have to go one step further than that, down to what is your specific niche. Now, he says niche in these pictures. I choose the word outcome just to segment this off of like your actual product or your avatar, just being clear that we're talking about outcome. It's really the same thing either way. So as an example, if your big market is wealth, and then the next step down to your sub-market is real estate, your niche could be flipping houses on eBay. Now, I don't know if that's ever been done before, if he just put that in here as an example. I think it was done at one time, but anyways, do you see how that's a lot more specific than real estate? So saying like I'm a real estate coach, like you are in the red ocean. The wealth market is like the reddest ocean, and then real estate is still very red. But flipping houses on eBay, that could be a blue ocean. At least at one time it was, right? And so not everything will remain a blue ocean forever. But if you're the first person to enter a category, then you will essentially dominate, and you will make most of the money and create most of the waves. Other people will see that you're successful. They'll try to follow. You're the first flipping houses on eBay person. Then other people will jump in and try to create their programs, but you'll already have captured up a large portion of that market share if your program is good, of course. So essentially, just to review, and you don't have to choose this now, but I'm just teaching you how to think about this, is that within the sub-market, there's a bunch of different niches, and we've got to figure out which one is your niche. Where or what blue ocean are we going to carve out that you will live in? So let's say your outcome right now was grow your email list by 2,000 subscribers. Like you followed all the other advice in this course, and you made it within your passion, within your competence, and you made it specific, and all the other stuff that I told you to do. Well, that is nice and specific, and it's a bit unique, right? Because it's got the 2,000 part. But there's plenty of other people who offer programs on this already. And a unique angle of 2,000 subscribers is not really all that unique. This is a common mistake that people can make when they're trying to make like their outcome like a blue ocean. And it actually reminds me of one that I made. That's my old podcast artwork picture there. And my outcome for my product and everything was helping people get their first 12 rental properties. And that helped me stand out. It made people remember me because of that number 12. And I actually recall a few people who did become clients and they actually said things like, well, I wanted 12 houses and you had the program for that. Or one guy said, I wanted 10 rentals and yours was about 12. So I figured, why not get 2 more? It was close enough. But that was really just me getting lucky. And those clients could have easily gone with the next real estate coach. There wasn't really a differentiating factor between what I did and the next person. At least I wasn't communicating that factor. I wasn't positioning it up front. A lot of them joined my clients because they were longtime podcast listeners anyways, and I had built trust and added value. That's probably the real reason they joined. It wasn't the 12 houses thing. 12 houses is cute, but it's not a blue ocean. I mean, what if some guy had come along and promised 13 houses? Well, I would be screwed. So what I wish I would have done in hindsight is slowed down and just looked more closely at what I did and found what made me unique. And in hindsight, one thing that did make my strategy unique was that I invest long distance. In other words, like I live in Denver, I buy houses in places like Tennessee and Alabama, and I buy them, renovate them, manage them all from the computer. And that's what I taught the majority of my clients to do as well, because they would live in expensive markets and they would need to learn to invest where the houses were cheaper. So they would need to do it long distance too. And had my outcome been defined by buying rental properties in long distance markets, that might have stood out more. And I only knew of one person who had written a book. It's called Long Distance Rental Buying or something like that. But I didn't see any programs that were specifically around that. So I could have said I help people buy their first 12 rental properties in long distance markets, but I don't even think the 12 thing was needed. That was honestly just like a bit of a buzzword to help people remember me. But can you guys see how that strategy of buying in long distance markets makes the outcome much more unique than saying, get your first 12 rental properties? What makes the outcome blue is the strategy itself, which is long distance investing. Another example of this would be a client of mine named Thomas, who heals autoimmune conditions. A lot of other coaches are out there. There's a lot of other options for people in terms of overcoming autoimmune stuff. But as we dug more into his story, trying to figure out what made him unique, we learned that the primary way he healed himself and a lot of his current clients was via a form of yogic breathing that's called Qigong. And so he ultimately chose the niche of Qigong for autoimmune. And so that one extra step made him stand out in the market. He started successfully selling that program to his clients just weeks after making this decision. And you could just see the relief on his face once we arrived at that, because I'm on the call with him on Zoom. The corners of his mouth turned up. He had a relaxed look on his face. He was just, you could see it in his eyes. Like, it was almost like, there it is. I've sort of discovered what makes me unique. And I can't tell you, there's something about that takes the pressure off of you to be all things to all people and to really just settle into that one part of it that you're a master at and that you're passionate about. And so it's weird. It's almost like when you really get authentically connected with your most authentic self, oftentimes the blue ocean appears out of that. I'm going on a bit of a tangent here, but that's just something that I've seen with me and with other clients. So his niche, Qigong for autoimmune, so that hints at not just the outcome, which is curing autoimmune conditions, but also the strategy by which to do it, Qigong. And the strategy piece is what makes his outcome blue. Or my other client, Alejandro, who I've talked about in previous videos in this training. His product, I help people choose a great cash flow market to invest in. It's unique. And what's unique about that outcome is actually not the strategy. because picking a market to invest in is required for everyone. What makes his outcome blue is that there aren't any or many programs out there that teach just this one step on its own. And you can do a simple Google search to reveal whether or not there's a lot out there about your potential niche. And you're likely to find plenty of content around your idea. Like if I Google how to choose your coaching niche, there's a lot of different blog posts and other content about it. In fact, I actually encourage you to Google how to choose your coaching niche right now so you can see what I'm talking about. When you do, just skim all the different articles and the content out there. Clearly, a lot of people have this need, but look at how bad and incomplete all the advice is on the topic. It's people saying like, here's the 100 most profitable niches or the top niches to make you successful. Like after going through this course, that is not the way by which you pick your niche. So clearly there's a gap in the market for solving this one specific piece of the puzzle. And also I was unable to find any other programs that specifically went deep into choosing your niche for an education or a coaching business. Choosing your niche is part of literally thousands of programs that sort of promise the whole shebang for people. Just like pick your real estate market it. But creating a standalone program on this one piece had not been done very much. There's also plenty of programs on like how to come up with a winning business idea and stuff like that. But specific to the education coaching market, coming up with a niche, which really you could say is the same thing as your business idea, is not a saturated space. So part of what makes this program blue is that it is aimed at coaches and experts. It's not a course for just any business owner. I have a friend named Collin who is an oil and gas engineer, and he wanted to become a real estate investor and create passive income. He started raising money to take down large multifamily properties, and he ran into plenty of competition out there against people who are doing the same thing. It's a big niche where it's like multifamily syndication. You get a bunch of money, people together, you get a percentage of the deal by raising the money. A lot of people are doing that. So he decided he was going to niche down further and just focus on helping professionals in his industry, the oil and gas industry, to put their money into real estate. So he starts guesting on oil and gas podcasts, presenting webinars at industry events. And almost immediately after making that shift, he had more money than he could invest. And him and I live close to each other. We hang out and talk business pretty often. And his exact words to me were like, the one big winning move that I made was focusing on the oil and gas industry. Now he is seen as the go-to guy for people in the oil and gas industry who want to invest their money. And him and his partnership have closed on multiple large multifamily deals, and he's raised a bunch of money for those deals. And he links it all back to making this one decision. And so that is cool, isn't it? Like, it's like, wow, that sounds way easier. I could just focus on this like segment of the market and everyone sees me as the go-to person. I don't have to focus on everyone. That's what I want for you guys. Okay. It's cool to hear about other people, but I'm telling you these stories so that you can maybe see yourself in it and decide how you could do something similar and make things easier for you. So with Collin's outcome, as with this program, it became blue more so because of the who it was targeted at versus the strategy by which it was delivered. So are you seeing how there's multiple angles by which you can make your outcome blue? And let's review them just in case, because I think it's important enough to really drive home. In the case of Thomas, his outcome became blue by the strategy by which it was delivered, Qigong for autoimmune. In the case of Alejandro, his outcome became blue because he picked a small piece of the process, how to pick a market to invest in, and focused on building an entire program to solve just that one piece of the puzzle. And in the case of Collin, his outcome became blue via the fact that he was focused on helping just people in the oil and gas industry, whereas no one before had done that. So the strategy by which you get your outcome can be unique in that there's not other programs or options out there, or the outcome itself can be unique because hardly anyone else is teaching exactly that one step, or who you target your outcome at, your avatar, can make your outcome unique. You might have an outcome that's like not that uncommon. It's like yoga or something. But if you target it at like attorneys or something, all of a sudden that's unique. Like yoga for attorneys, right? I don't know if that's a good idea or not, but it just came up with it off the top of my head to drive home the point. So we've uncovered 3 techniques by which you can make your outcome blue, and there's probably more that I'm not even aware of. So how do you know if your outcome is blue? Well, there's one surefire way, and that is if there is little to no direct competition. So that's one of my favorite parts about having a blue outcome, is that there's so many other people out there that serve coaches and experts, right? I mean, you've seen them all. But by being the niche guy, I don't directly compete with them. All those people who help people make $10K a month, they have clients who can't pick their niche. And you might have been one of them before. So instead of competing with them, I can say, hey, do you have clients that are struggling to pick their niche? I could do a guest training on that for you. I could write the foreword to your book. I could give your clients free access to my course when they purchase yours. I could come on your podcast. And so basically, they end up seeing me as added value to what they do, not as competition. So that's a really good acid test to determine whether or not your outcome is blue. When you made the decision, did you feel a shift to where you can see your competitors now as potential partners? If so, you just went blue. Another thing is that when coaches create a program on something broad, like real estate investing, they don't really nail each piece of the puzzle completely. I'm going into this to try and further convince you of the idea of niching down. Because these coaches will have all their modules in their program: mindset, market, team, money, deals, analyzing, closing, then bonuses, flipping houses, tax strategies. Like, look at all that stuff, right? And the truth is if you were really going to nail all of those steps, you would either need many years of constant testing and upgrades, or you would need to partner with people who are smarter than you in those areas and have them help. So that program, a broad program like that, it's harder to market to people. They don't understand what you're talking about. It's harder to sell. They can't see if they need it or not. They can't see how it's unique. It's harder to talk about and explain. So every time someone asks you what you do, you have to take a deep breath and talk for half an hour. It's harder to deliver, and it's harder to keep updated. So your clients are getting worse results. The program's not as good. It's harder to market, harder to sell. What is the benefit? There is none. It's just a misconception that we've been taught. You can't make your program great if it's too complex and if it's promising too much of the overall pie. Like, the process of managing a rehab on a house is massive. Like, all these things, right, are involved in rehabbing a house successfully. Yet people create courses where rehabbing a house is like just one module or something. Like, why wouldn't that be your entire program? So please shed the burden of thinking that your program has to do everything for people. This is actually a disservice. If you want to nail something, pick a smaller piece of the puzzle. Amy Porterfield says one of the biggest mistakes online educators make is trying to put everything but the kitchen sink into their programs. This actually makes it harder for the client to navigate. Getting the outcome takes so long, people get discouraged and say the program didn't work. And so you're going to get better client results if your program is streamlined and crisp. I could have bloated the hell out of this program to show you how much I know, or just to make sure you thought it was valuable with a bunch of bonus modules and other stuff. Because I know a lot more stuff than's in this program, of course, right? Just like a lot more than you're going to end up putting into your program. But is that what you really wanted? Did you really want me to make this just the Brian Elwood program? I put everything I know in one course, and then it's on you to somehow navigate all that and get your outcome? Or do you just want the outcome of nailing your niche so you can move on from this, put this niche stuff behind you, and get to your next goal, keep hitting higher levels, achieve your aspirations? So why am I telling you all this? It's ultimately in the hope that I can take some of the weight off of your shoulders. I can encourage you to pick a smaller piece of the puzzle, increase your chances of finding a blue niche, ensure that your product is really great, which will lead to more confidence. So if you're wondering, like, this is starting to sound like some of the previous videos, Brian, where you're talking about specificity. Yes, it is. There's overlap between these principles, right? Making your outcome specific. It's also, and making it within your area of competence too, like that plays a role. So does making it something you're passionate about. Don't worry, I'm going to provide you with a master checklist at the end of the outcome module to make sure you ticked off all the boxes, because I know this has been maybe a lot to digest all at once. But the thing is sometimes when you get one piece of this right, the others will fall into place. For example, blue outcomes, they're often specific by nature. It would be hard to, I don't think you could make something that was blue, meaning it like hadn't been done before, and have it be vague and general. And so it's often specific by nature. And since you niched way down, you likely chose something that's in your zone of competence too. So we are going a lot deeper here in this training to get to the really good stuff. And we're about to work on making your outcome blue. But I do want to check in with you right now and just slow down and ask you how you're feeling after digesting this training thus far. If you're anything like I was, because I remember when I learned these concepts, you might be feeling some combination of resistance and uncertainty. I've heard this blue ocean advice over and over. I even read a whole book on it once, Purple Cow by Seth Godin. And the reasons I resisted doing it and acting upon this wisdom were that, one, I just didn't think I could think of anything that made me unique. I was worried that niching down too much would limit me, like we talked about before. It felt like a lot of work to think of something fresh and unique, which it is work. And I didn't see the importance in it enough to really value it. And I also kind of had this belief that my differentiation stood with who I was. Like, people will like me enough and they'll just, and there is some truth to that, but that takes a long time. Like, yeah, if people listen to your podcast every week for 2 years, they're going to really get to know you, and the people who align with your values will choose you over other people. But if you want results faster than that, and you don't want you to be your differentiating factor, don't buy into that viewpoint. But I remember what it was like to be in your position. It can feel a bit defeating, because then you can look at like the examples that I've given and say, man, everyone else has this cool, unique product. They've got this cool angle where they're not competing with people, but that seems like it's for them, not for. And I just ask that you explore that belief a bit more, that you journal on it, and perhaps decide to give yourself permission to carve out your unique space in the market and own it. If you're feeling resistance on this, like, literally go to the coffee shop with your journal and your pen and write down why, and go deep. Is there something else going on where you don't feel qualified, or you don't feel confident, or you're not giving yourself permission to do something that feels a bit big, right? Part of growth in business is personal growth and getting out of your comfort zone and making bigger leaps. And so there could be some inner stuff that's going on with you. And I just know for me, journaling helps me to like get a lot of that out on paper. It's almost like therapy but I'm just with myself. And so I like to go do it at coffee shops. Give it a shot if you're struggling with this training, because you might spend days or weeks coming up with your unique outcome. While that's true, after that, I'm just going to tell you, you're going to spend the majority of your time from then on marketing and selling that outcome. So it's almost like we're going back to the chainsaw or wooden mallet analogy, would you rather get started today chopping down trees with a wooden mallet or wait a couple of weeks, but then you get to use a chainsaw? All right, it's time for you to put pen to paper and see what you come up with. So right now I'd like for you to open your niche scorecard and click the tab labeled blue. All right, when you get there, this is what you will see, and I'd like for you to spend some time answering these questions. First question is out of the big 4 markets: wealth, health, relationships, personal development. Which does your outcome lie within? The next one, what is your sub-market? The market within your big 4. So if your big 4 is personal development, then what are you focusing on within that? Are you focusing on like spirituality? Or what is it? If your big market is health, then are you focusing on nutrition? What's your next sub-market down? And then within your sub-market, when you take it one step further, what ideas do you have that could make your outcome blue? What could be your blue niche or outcome within that sub-market? Just fill in a few ideas that you have. And then what is it that makes the outcome blue? With the idea that you're leaning towards the most. Is it that the strategy itself is not used to get that outcome? Is it that no one teaches that one piece of the puzzle on its own? There's like no products on it? Or is it who you are deciding to target it at with your avatar? Next question, when you Google your outcome, does there appear to be interest in the topic? We want there to be interest in what you do. And then also the next question, the last one, is when you Google your outcome, can you find any available products to help people achieve it? If so, how many did you find? All right, a few final thoughts on this idea of a blue outcome. If you're still overwhelmed by this training and you feel like it's almost thrown a wrench in your plans versus helped, just understand that this is normal. This training may only plant a seed that blooms later on with the next product you sell. I debated even putting this into the course, but I knew you wanted to nail your niche and you wanted to master that idea. And a big part of that is just deciding what you're going to do for people. I just felt like if they really want to know what it takes to create a winner, I have to include this. Whether or not they decide to act on it is up to them. But making your outcome blue really will take you to a new level. So even if you're overwhelmed, I encourage you to sit with it for a week, let those emotions dissipate somewhat, and explore what's going on and explore what makes you unique. Because I think a lot of the time, the answers lie within your own story. So really try to drill down on what makes you unique. What's unique about the way that you do things or who you are. There is an angle to create your blue ocean. I believe that if you're willing to be vulnerable, look hard enough at your own story, slow down, be brave, you can create your blue ocean. So I recommend you journal every morning on this and continue to do research, see what else is out there that is the same or similar to the outcomes you're considering. And last but not least, make sure you feel good about what you choose. You shouldn't just pick something that's unique, but you're not going to be excited to deliver on it or have the skills to do so. So in other words, making your outcome blue should not compromise the other steps we've done in this module. If you feel like you've discovered your blue outcome, then I want to give you a big virtual high five, because this final tweak really will ensure that selling your program is much easier.